Thank you, Dr. Ravin. Just curious, what is the role of my mental health care provider during the development, planning, drafting of the Psychiatric Advance Directive, as well as during crisis?
So, as far as your interactions with the healthcare provider, they certainly have an obligation to ask if you have psychiatric advance directives and offer you information on it. The law does not mandate healthcare providers to walk you through the process and provide you any legal assistance, but from good faith relationship with patients, the healthcare providers would be happy to answer your questions about various treatments that you may want to wish for in the future, should you ever encounter a situation when you're in mental health crisis and unable to make decisions for yourself.
Thank you for sharing that information. So, what is the role of my mental health proxy in the various steps? So, planning, during drafting, and during crisis.
So once you identified that the person who is a competent adult who can make decisions with your best interest in mind for you, I suggest have very frank, open discussion about what your preferences are for treatment. Because remember, this is the person who may be in the position to speak for you when you are unable to do so. By law, those proxies are not able to consent for any treatment that you explicitly decline to consent to. So let's say if you don't want a particular treatment, the proxy cannot come in and say that they overrule you. That is not going to happen. Another thing to keep in mind that in many states, the law puts additional limitations on what a healthcare proxy can decide for you. For example, in the state of Nevada, you can consent to voluntary treatment in the hospital in advance as part of the Psychiatric Advance Directives. However, if you just have somebody appointed for you, that person does not have that ability.
So, Dr. Raven, you just mentioned that this is a legal document. Could you discuss the implications for the same? What does it mean regarding how it has to be prepared, how it should be shared, and how it is implemented?
So we will need to recognize, first of all, that the laws vary from state to state. In a majority of times, the psychiatric advance directives have specified number of witnesses or the type of public notarization that needs to happen for the document to become valid. Certain states provide templates that allow people to follow specific questions in them and assist with preparation of psychiatric advance directives. However, the free format can be acceptable for as long as the document meets legal standards of each particular state. Now, if you are not sure, I say how to go about completing the document, that you can consult with patient advocacy groups or civil law centers, or even ask hospital staff to get additional information. Majority of the hospitals in the United States are actually required to ask patients if they have psychiatric advance directives, so or if they are interested in learning more about the topic. Certain states even allow a patient to have psychiatric advance directives completed in another state to be recognized in the state where they receive care for as long as the statements in the document do not contradict the state law where patients receive their care. In general, because it is a legal document, it requires hospitals and physicians and other healthcare professionals to comply with patient stated preferences or comply with preferences of the person who acts on behalf of the patient if that person was named as a proxy or agent in the healthcare declaration. And the hospitals have to follow those preferences for as long as they don't contradict the standards of care.
Thank you, Dr. Raven. Those are really important points to keep in mind. This brings me to the next question. What if I change my mind about something on the Psychiatric Advance Directive after it has been created?
So, as I mentioned to you before, you can change your mind at any time for as long as you retain your decision making capacity. If you don't want your psychiatric advance directives to be active, all you need to do is to notify your physician about that fact, and they will have to annotate it in your chart, in your medical records, and at that point, it is about all you need to do. However, if you consider making changes to the document, I suggest creating a brand new form. The reason for that is that it will probably require new witnesses and new notarization, and you want to make sure that your document remains valid. Another thing to consider is that many states put an expiration dates on this kind of documents, and in order for the document to be valid, it has to be within the time frame allowed by law. And in general, I think it is a good practice to review your preferences every year or two to make sure that they properly reflect your wishes.
Thank you, Dr. Ravin. Those were some very important points, and I have been making notes as we go. So, before we take your leave for the day, I just wanted to reach out, thank you first, and then ask you for quick closing remarks for patients and for caregivers.
So, first of all, again, I would like to thank PsychU and you, Sucharita, in particular, for your interest in this topic. You know how close it has been to my heart. I would like to mention the Psychiatric Advance Directives is still a relatively new tool. A lot of education still needs to happen. It could be a really great tool that helps patients guide their treatment. However, the tool is only good when you use it. And despite clear evidence that psychiatric advance directives enable patients to direct their care during the time of mental health crisis and improve patient outcomes and satisfaction of patients with their treatment, many patients, caregivers, healthcare professionals are still hesitant to discuss psychiatric advance directives, primarily because of their limited understanding of its nature. I'm grateful for this opportunity to contribute to increase awareness of psychiatric advance directives. And I believe it is a powerful tool that is underutilized, but hopefully it'll be used broader and broader and allow our patients to receive psychiatric treatment that really meets their needs.
Thank you so much. And with that, I thank everyone in the audience who listened to this recording. And please contact PsychU if you have any feedback. And I look forward to seeing you at our future webinars and VLEs.